What's the European Union and why was it created? Geek out with me. You probably always hear reporters and news outlets refer to the EU when they're talking about Europe, but believe it or not, the EU is a fairly recent creation. As of 2023, the European Union is a political and economic union of 27 member states that are located in Europe. It was created in 1993 with a treaty signed in Maastricht in the Netherlands, the goal of which was to create a more unified Europe and to economically and politically integrate European countries so that together they could encourage trade and economic interdependence and increase their collective power on the world stage. They created a common currency called the euro, and they opened up the borders between European countries so that travelers could move between them freely. EU citizens are also allowed to work and live in any EU country. So if you're Italian, for example, you can live and work in France or Spain without needing a visa. The goal of this was to become like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Okay, it was to boost the economy for all European countries. Although each country has its own government that decides on a range of policies, the EU also makes policy together as one bloc. So they come up with foreign policy, monetary policy, and policies that support democracy, liberalism, and human rights. Now, decisions in the EU don't come easy. In fact, they require the consensus of all member states. I can't even get my family to agree on where to eat dinner, let alone make major political decisions. Still, the argument behind the EU is that by uniting this way, together each European state is economically stronger and more secure, and their policies will weigh more heavily on the world stage. The EU is headquartered in Brussels, which, fun fact, was chosen as the unofficial EU capital because it's halfway between France and Germany. And the reconciliation of these two countries after World War II is what ultimately led to European integration. Now, the structure of the EU kind of looks like a lot of governments. First, you have the European Commission, which is responsible for initiating and executing policy. Then you have the Council of Ministers, which is made up of ministers of member states and which legislates, sets political objectives, coordinates policies, and resolves problems. You also have the European Parliament, which includes 751 representatives from the EU states, and which passes legislation and approves the budget. Then you have the European Council, which defines the EU's overarching policy agenda and priorities, and elects the EU president, and which is made up of heads of government and the European Commission president. And finally, you have the EU Court of Justice, which includes a general court, a civil service tribunal, and a court of judges. Their job is to resolve disputes over EU treaties and ensure a uniform interpretation of EU laws. And that's the EU! You can visit European Union institutions in Brussels, Luxembourg, and Strasbourg. So if you're in the neighborhood, drop by and let us know what you think. If you like this video, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons, check out our other videos, and thanks for geeking out with me.